Okay, welcome back to the Blender 3 Docwalk. This documentation is on fields, field types, and how to best manipulate them. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started here. Okay, first up is the text field. So text field usually is indicated with either a magnifying glass next to it, indicating a search field, right? Or without one. So text fields, you can type in them, and you can do, you can do traditional text editing shortcuts. If I hit Control A for all, it will select everything in there. I can backspace to clear it out. Normal shortcuts like the if and for y. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, if I hit Control and my left arrow, I can jump words. See that? I'm jumping words there. So one word at a time. I can do Control Shift and select words at a time. So all of your basic text editor actions, exactly the ones we went over in the text editor video not too long ago, can be applied to your text fields, text and search fields. So let's clear that out. Now for text fields with an icon next to it and pop-ups, for instance, this up here in the upper right hand corner, right? This has a little drop down next to it here. Okay. There's several of these throughout Blender. This is called a data block menu, and we will get to that later, but just not in this video. Okay, now number fields. Let's jump over here and open up our little cubes kind of, whoops. Let's just select the cube there. So these are number fields. Now, number fields are pretty cool. You can do a bunch of stuff with them. So we're going to go over that really quick here. Okay, so the first number field feature, I suppose that we're going to go over here. I'm going to go ahead and hit N to pull out my sidebar here. Now, there are a few types of number fields. The first type you have already seen multiple times. For instance, over here in my sidebar, if I hover over any of these number fields, you will see these little arrows appear to the left and the right. Okay, this is your first type and the most common that you're going to be dealing with. Another type, if I go over here and head down to my render properties, in this drop-down, ambient occlusion, which we will talk about much later, and it is a very cool property to give materials. However, we're not going to talk about it now. I just want to show you the slider. You surely are familiar with something similar, but basically I just grab it and slide left and right, and you see I just kind of like, a volume knob almost. I'm turning it all the way up and all the way down. Sliders typically only allow you to enter a value, within a preset range. Okay, now there are multiple ways to change the value within number fields. The first is simply by clicking the arrows on the side. To the left goes in the negative direction, and to the right goes in the positive direction. You may also hold down Control and scroll your wheel, which does the same thing. Holding Control down and scrolling my wheel. You can see that it is scrolling up, goes positive, scrolling down, takes me down into the negatives. You can use dragging, right? If you click on the value, click within the field that you want to alter, left mouse button, hold it down and drag to the left or the right. Performs exactly the same thing. It's usually a little faster for larger steps in larger amounts. Also, if you would like to kind of increment in snap-like steps, if you click first, hold it down like you're going to start dragging left and right, as I am doing right now. Now, if I hold down Control, it begins to just do increment without decimal values, just straight integer incrementation. As you can see there. Just be aware that the order with this matters in this instance, okay? If you want the snap-like step increments behavior, you need to use your mouse button first. So hold your left mouse button down first, and then hold control down. So you're holding them both down together, and I'm just using my mouse movement to do the snap stepping there. Okay, now there's one other modifier key we can use here. If I hold down, okay, left mouse button first, right, to start the dragging capabilities. Now I'm going to hold down control, and as you'll notice, with control, I'm incrementing in tens here. With this particular field, I'm incrementing in tens. So 40, 50, 60, 70. Now, if I also reach over and hold down shift, I can now do precision stepping. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's no longer in tens. I'm counting by ones, still without decimal. So it is precision step incrementation. All right, now as I kind of mentioned earlier, if I hover over a field and hold down control and then click, it brings me into a text edit like mode. And then I can enter whatever value I would like with my number pad or number keys. Now, if I'm hovering over a field, just hovering over the field and hit enter, it does the same thing. It opens up the number entry field. Another way to activate the text entry, like, number entry field, is simply just by clicking. Single clicking will activate the digit entry field here. Now, after entering whatever number I want to enter, let's say 88, hitting enter cements that into the field. So hitting enter actually enters it into your field. The other way to ensure that it enters it into the field, I can enter 5 and then just click away from the field, and that enters it into the field itself. Now, if I make an entry, like say 78, and I don't want to enter into the field, all I have to do is hit escape or right mouse button. So here's escape. It goes back to what it was before. And then right mouse button, it goes back to what it was before. Jumping fields is executed by hitting the tab key. Tab, 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 tab. If you want to go back up, it's shift tab. Will bring you back up. Okay, and the last thing I mentioned here in the documentation is by hovering over a field, if you want to negate it, for instance, let's see that this 38.1 here, okay? So I'm just going to hover over the field that I want to negate, okay? And I'm going to hit the minus button on my keyboard along the top row, not in my number pad, okay? So along the top row, after the 0, hitting the minus, or hitting the negative sign, and see that negated that there. Now, if I hit the minus sign in my number pad, it's going to change the font size, or zoom out, I should say. See that? So if you ever alter the zoom in a field like this, and you want to bring it back to the default zoom, just hit home. Okay? All right. Next is multi-value editing. We already kind of went over this. If I want to change the values of all of these axes here in the scale, X, Y, and Z as far as scale goes, I click in my first field, and while I'm holding down my left mouse button, I'm going to drag upward. Dragging up, you can see it selected all of them. Okay? So, that's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to click, drag up. Once they're all selected, I'm going to keep my left mouse button held down, and then drag left and right to alter the value. So click, drag up, and then left and right, alter the value. Now, you can also click and drag up. Oops, I apologize. Okay. Click and drag up and let go. And that's going to enter them all into text edit mode where you can actually type in the number that you want, hit enter, and it will change all of them. So if I do 55, now they are all reading 55, enter, and now it's 55 across the board. Okay, now several text entry fields have a value limit, which means that there is a pre-specified range of values which can be entered. For instance, it's obvious to see in this one here, the value is between 0 and 1. Okay? So 0 all the way up to 1. Some of them are a little bit more discrete than this, I guess I should say. And which means that it could be a field like this, right? That only has a limit between, say, negative 500 and positive 500. So, and now there are two types of limits. There's a soft limit, which restricts the value you can enter like this, right, with your mouse by clicking and dragging or hitting the buttons here. So say 500 is, as an example, okay, if 500 was my soft limit, it would go to positive 500 and then negative 500, okay? But then it wouldn't go any further after I hit those two values. Now there's a hard limit, which extends a little bit further, and for some applications, especially when you're dealing with materials and stuff, it can be very handy to know about this. The hard limit is a limit that exceeds the soft limit. So if the soft limit was between negative 500 and positive 500, the hard limit may be something more like negative 1,000 and positive 1,000, but you simply can't access the values outside of the soft limit by dragging. You would have to go in and manually enter it like that. Now, you can also enter values with mathematical expressions. For instance, if I go to my y here and I want 24 divided by 2, hit enter, okay, 24 divided by 2 equals 12. It analyzes that expression and resolves it to whatever the answer would be. You can even use things like pi and Python operators. If you're not familiar with the Python language, that's totally okay. But if I just do pi for pi, 3.14, I can do like square root, right? So square root of 12, enter 3.46. Okay. So there are several of these that you can do. You can do addition, subtraction. You can do operation ordering by using parentheses and brackets. So you can also enter values as drivers or expressions as drivers. Drivers are a far more complex topic, and it gets into programming and linking. As an example, when you're using an expression as a driver, you access it or activate it with the hashtag mark, and then whatever the driver is and whatever expression you feel is necessary, you can pass values into the function or into the method. So function function val1, val2, and then you can operate on top of that as well. So something like that is valid as long as there's a function called function or a method called function, which, probably a bad idea. But, okay, now let's talk about units. So you will notice that often you will see the unit meter, like up here in location, 5m, meaning 5 meters, okay? So you can actually use other units as well. If you wanted yards, you could spell out yards, or you could use, and see it automatically converts it to the meter value. But yeah, so 44 feet, FT, enter, automatically converts it. Okay. Interesting. It also shows using single quotations and the double quotation mark for feet and inches. And it also shows that you can mix unit types. So, for instance, 2 feet plus 5 feet plus 23 inches divided by 44 yards. Enter. And 3.1. Wow, no, there's no way. That apparently didn't resolve, because for a second I thought it was a coincidence that it resolved to pi. Nope, that didn't work. But it gives examples like that. Let's try one of these other ones. So 3 feet plus 4 yards. Oh, that's not. Oh, duh. Wow. Yeah, these are in degrees. I apologize. Okay, so let's try that again. So 3 feet plus 22 inches divided by 12 yards. There we go. All right. So that's unit entry and how you can use different unit systems within the number fields here. One last note on the units. It mentions that you can use the full names as well as the plural names. So if I do 44 meters, plural, that resolves to 44 meters. And 1 meter as well resolves to simply 1 meter. Okay, and lastly, we're going to talk about color fields. So I've got my cube properties open over here. And you'll notice the color field down here says color has white. If I click on it, right, the color field comes up. Some color fields will be divided in half, where the right half will show that color, but with the alpha channel active, meaning its opacity will be visible. There will be a checkerboard background, and whatever the opacity is set to. Actually, let me just show you what I'm talking about here. I'll click on this and bring the opacity down. See on the right side, bring it all the way down, and you can see the checkerboard background. Bring it all the way up, and it fills it all the way in. Okay, so let's just leave it halfway for now. Okay, so you can actually just grab these and drag it to other color fields. Let's see here. Let's do a material. Oh, here we go. This is easy. This is easy and accessible. Okay, let's change the color to red and bring the alpha down a little bit. Whoops. My bad. Okay, halfway down, and let's go ahead and turn this guy blue and bring alpha halfway down. Okay, now if I want to just drag the blue up to the red, I simply can. So I just click, drag it out, and drop it into the red. Well, that didn't work. Click, drag, drop. There we go. That worked. All right. So I think we took care of everything for this documentation. Let's jump over here. Okay. So yeah, that was the fields document. And I will see you guys next time in the menus document.